What's going on, Babylonians? It's me, Songs of Rage, back with another The First Descendant video to bring to you, and today we're going to be covering the cooking master himself, and that's going to be Blair. Now, Blair has me in absolute stitches when it comes to his voice lines compared to all the others, because while we do have the people like Viessa who likes to spam all their voice lines as quickly as possible, when it comes to Blair, though, it's all about cooking puns and all that kind of thing. And yeah, I mean, just the reloading one is just hilarious when it says reladling, and I honestly think they've had such good fun when it comes to this one. But what we're going to do is we're going to cover what Blair is absolutely amazing and god tier at, and then have a look into his kit, and then go into the runes to be able to explain what's going to work so well, what's going to synergize well, and take it all from there. But before we go any further, make sure you have dropped a like and a subscribe on the video. It really does help the channel out. And did you know that we are partnered with Player Ammo, where your one-stop shop for your gaming supplement needs? Make sure you use code BABBLE at the checkout for a nice juicy 10% discount. And with all that out the way, let's get right into it. So first and foremost, we need to have a quick look into the skill set that Blair brings to the table, and to be able to understand and be able to explain where all of his DPS options are going to come from. Now, he is a little bit more on the complex side because he does have a mechanic that is all around being able to use his first ability as well as his fourth ability to be able to increase the amount of damage and crit damage that he will be doing. So let's cover his passive skill first so we get a good understanding before we go any further. So the passive skill is called Flame Manipulation, and the reason why this is so good is when attacking enemies in burn state, your critical hit damage is increased by 30%, which is absolutely huge. That is probably one of the easiest ways to be able to increase your crit damage, and crit damage in this game is pretty tasty. Critical hit rate is also increased depending on the number of stoves that can be found in the battlefield. So if you have 1 out, you get a nice 5%, if it's 2 it's 9%, and if it's 3 it's 14%. So overall, the idea is to be able to make sure you've got as many stoves out as possible, ideally 3, and then also have another 3 in reserve, and we'll explain how that also that gets to work in a quick second. But to be able to have 3 up means that you're going to be having a nice critical hit rate, you're going to be doing a lot of damage when it comes to critical hit damage, and then there's also ways to be able to increase the amount of fire damage we'll be able to do as well. So we've got all that out of the way, we understand how that all works. Let's have a look at the first ability. So the first one is called Stove On. Now this has a cost of 25 MP, has a cooldown of 0.5 seconds, so this is pretty quick to be able to get back, and what this does is it emits flames to be able to deal explosion damage based on physical attack times 19%, flame attack times 1% to enemies within a 2 meter by 2 meter radius, and creates a stove. So already just by using this ability once, you're already up to a good start, and you're getting that nice critical hit rate increase. With the stove, enemies within a 2 by 2 meter radius are inflicted with a physical attack times 12%, flame attack times 1% every 1 second for 18 seconds constantly, and also a burn effect. Your flame attack plus 10 is added to the constant damage, and when it comes to burn, Blair's burn effect inflicts constant damage of physical attack times 18%, flame attack times 1% every 1 second for 5 seconds, and flame attack plus 10 is added to the constant damage. Now when it comes to this ability, it's a really good way to be able to do defenses, or to be able to set it up on enemy spawns, because you can plant this down and enemies will land on it and they'll pretty much instantly get deleted, at least when it comes to the smaller enemies, and it's also a great way to be able to apply those damage over time, and it's all about positioning where these stoves go to be able to maximize the amount of damage you're going to be doing, as well as getting that main bonus from your passive skill to be able to increase your crit damage as well as your crit rate. So Stove On is a great ability. You're able to store up charges as well, so you don't have to use this. It's not like it's a one and done and then you have to wait for 0.5 seconds. You do have to wait for the charges to be able to come back, but you can activate them, all 3 of them, once you've got to be able to get that full bonus as well. So going from there, we do have the next ability, which is Stove Off, and what this means is it has a 0 cost, it has a cooldown of 24 seconds, and what it will do is it will retrieve all the stoves from the battlefield and restore MP by 19. You can retrieve up to 3 stoves. Retrieving your stove also increases your defense by 50% for 5 seconds. The reason why you would want to be able to use this is a way to be able to keep your MP as high as possible, because you're able to replenish yourself a little bit faster, and also on top of that you're able to use it as a really quick kind of, you're having an issue with your defense, and so say you're being focused by one of the raid bosses, you can use this to be able to tank a few more hits, and that's why it's kind of important to be able to stack up your defense as high as possible when it comes to Blair. Overall, this ability I can't say I use too much, because I really prefer having the stoves out there, and it's not like it refunds any of your stoves ready for your ability. If it had that kind of mechanic, I could probably understand it, like if you were able to cancel it before the stove is fully used up. Maybe you get like a partial refund back into your first skill, so you've got that. But otherwise, if you do have 3 out and you activate this, you don't get any back, and it just feels like it's a bit of a waste. Why would you want to be able to cash in on your DPS to be able to get 50% defense? It just doesn't really make sense to me. So I feel like they could probably work with this one a little bit more, because as it currently stands, I would never really recommend to be able to use this. Going from there, we do have a really good DPS option, and that's going to be Flambe. And what this is a cost of 35 MP, has a cooldown of 30 seconds, and what this does is it emits flames forward for 3.5 seconds. Enemies within a 1.5 meter radius from the flame's arrival point are inflicted with physical attack times 62.6%, flame attack times 1% damage every 0.5 seconds, and a burn effect. And once again, the burn effect is just the standard, so 18% of your physical attack, 1% of your flame attack for every 1 second for 5 seconds, and flame attack plus 10 is added to the constant damage. This is a deceivingly long range skill, and obviously it's not to the point of being able to snipe anyone, but it definitely goes a lot further than what you would probably expect it to, and I highly recommend that you give this one a go as quickly as well, whenever this comes off of cooldown. Outside of all the other skills, this is going to be your main DPS option when it comes to his abilities. While you can use stoves to be able to place it down a bit more defensively, a bit more tactically, this is always going to be your way to be able to deal with huge crowds that are in front of you that you don't have time to be able to put your stoves down, or in case you are all out. This will also do a lot more damage than it seems when it comes to guns as well, so therefore this is probably one of your better fallback panic options as well. But also, if you are trying to burst down a boss, I highly recommend that you do give Flambe a go. I really enjoy this skill, and I hope that you do as well. And then lastly, we have Chef's Star, and what this does is it has a really high cost of 60, it has a really long cooldown of 120, and what it will do is it will throw a very large fireball forward. The large fireball on impact then splits into 3 smaller fireballs and then causes extra explosions, and the stove is created on the ground where a small fireball explodes. So because we have 3 of them coming out, that means that we will be instantly having our 3 stoves, which then gives us our full crit hit rate, and then also our crit damage as well for any enemy that still survives that explosion, to be able to then get that burn effect. The large fireball explodes to deal damage to enemies within a 4 meter radius with a physical attack of 203%, flame attack of 1%, explosion damage, and inflict the burn effect. And then the small fireballs explode to be able to deal with enemies within a 2 meter radius with a physical attack of 89%, flame attack of 1%, and then inflict the burn. With the stoves, though, it is pretty much the exact same thing, so you're just pretty much getting 3 stoves out instantly on the field for this, and it will do a massive area of effect to be able to take that, like, just pretty much just cut off all that area for enemies to be able to walk through or be able to spawn on. And once again, it will do the stove effect, it will do the burn effect, which is pretty much just standard across the whole class. So we've got all that out of the way. The idea is to be able to manage your stoves, to be able to keep them out on the field, to be able to apply as much burn as you can. But let's look at some other ways to be able to do that, and let's also have a quick look into the runes to be able to find out what makes it so effective. So when it comes to the inventory, primarily you do want to, as always with the skill attack, you want to be able to have something that has a really high base attack when it comes to weapons, because that seems to be the main contributing factor. So you want an RPG or you want a sniper rifle with a really high base attack to be able to maximize your skill damage. But alternatively, and I have found some really good success for this, is to be able to go for an SMG. Now, the reason why I do go for this is we want to be able to increase our attack and defense, which this got some really nice rolls on, but also it's you don't always rely on your skills when it comes to Blair. You can get a lot of work done with just using the stoves, you can get a lot of work using Flambe, you can get a lot of work done with the Chef's Star, but what you need to be able to defend yourself with in between those times when the cooldowns are happening is to be able to have a gun that's reliable. And overall, I find that the Devil's Call or any kind of submachine gun really is a great alternative to be able to do that. Now, when it comes to the mods, what you can do is to be able to increase your attack as high as possible, but the main thing to be able to do is get an elemental enhancement, and in this case flame. And what this will do is while you're shooting your gun, it will add flame attack equal to 16.1% in my current state onto my weapon's attack, and that means that I'm going to be dealing flame damage with my gun, which, as you know from his passive passive ability, I'm going to be doing more crit damage when enemies are on fire or have been afflicted by flame or burn, and that means that I can use this to be able to apply it outside of my skills, and then I can still fire my gun to be able to get that nice crit hit damage. So I highly recommend that if you are playing Blair, you grab at least this rune and start leveling it up to be able to increase the amount of damage that you can do, because all of this will feed back into your skills, but it will also allow you to be able to use your passive a lot more frequently. On top of that, you can then also go for flames, and what this will do is your attack against burned enemies will also be increased as well, and that will also go against with your skills. It will also go with the elemental enhancement rune as well, and this is a really nice increase in DPS, so I highly recommend that you get at least these two, but you definitely want to be able to grab the attack up as well, but these three are absolutely stunning, and they definitely are a great idea to be able to put onto any weapon that you do actually plan on using. So if we have a quick look into the Descendant runes, so the idea with this is to be able to get your skills back as fast as possible, but to also increase like how often they're out as well. So you always, first and foremost, you always want to be able to go for a better defense to be able to increase the max HP that you'd have of your character. This is just pure survival, and you can't get very far without it. On top of that, we also have skill extension to be able to increase the duration of our skills, so our stoves stay out even longer, and that allows us to be able to put out even more. So if we are relying on our level 1 ability to be able to do so, the stoves will stay out a little bit longer, and that allows me to be able to more consistently have 3 out at the same time. On top of that, we have acceleration to be able to reduce our skill cooldown as well, and this will help with everything across the board, so that is a nice 25%. Just know that obviously when it comes to the Chef Star ability, we are taking 25% off that, which is a huge 30 seconds, so therefore we're taking that all the way down to 90 seconds, so we have that back a lot faster. And then we have Mana Cycle to be able to reduce our MP cost, so we can use our abilities a little bit more frequently. And then the real kind of hero here is going to be Veteran's Tactics. So upon defeating an enemy, whether you use your abilities, whether you use your gun, you have a 20% chance to be able to reset your Chef's Kiss. And because Chef's Kiss is always going to be dropping 3 stoves for us, it's going to be a great way to be able to do a lot of damage, because it does a lot of damage when it instantly impacts on an enemy, but it also then puts the area denials down, so any enemies that are after that then spawn on those and then instantly walk onto them. We then have a 20% chance from those as well to be able to then reset it. So we're going to pretty much do scorched earth everywhere with this, and I highly recommend that you do maximize this to capacity 10 to be able to get that 20% chance to increase the chance of getting your skill back a little bit faster. So I definitely think this is probably going to be the unsung hero when it comes to it. I do think Veteran's Tactics is absolutely amazing when it comes to Blair, and I highly recommend that you do try and go grab one of those. In terms of tips and tricks when it comes to Blair, it's all pretty much self-explanatory. When it comes to his ability, we have area denials with the stoves, so you just kind of want to put those, if you're doing like consecutive defenses, or if you want to, if you're doing like consecutive survivals or something like that, just know where the enemy spawns are going to be, so that you can then plant these stoves down. Or alternatively, you can plant them if there's a lot of melee attackers and you're doing the defense, you can plant those around the objective, and then that way when they walk onto them, they pretty much cannot reach the objective to start damaging them. So I do recommend that you do try and kind of plan out, try and identify where some potential spawns are going to be, or some choke points, and then plan ahead and put the stoves down. When it comes to Chef's Kiss though, what I would recommend with this, because you don't get any additional benefit after having 3 stoves, so going all the way up to 6 doesn't really make sense. So the idea is that if you use your level 1 ability, you put down all 3 stoves, and then you have that nice benefit pretty much right there and then. You might as well wait until those pretty much end, or you can bring them back with your stove off to be able to get yourself a nice defense, and then you can use your Chef's Kiss to be able to get another 3 back out. So that way you're constantly cycling back and forth between having 3 on your level 1 ability and then having your Chef's Kiss to be able to give you another 3, and that way you're not wasting any of the stoves to be able to maximize that full benefit, that full crit rate additional that you will be then getting. And that's pretty much all I pretty much know. If there's anyone else that has played Blair and they want to be able to share some tactics, then let us know in the comment section down below. I will happily pin one that comes up with a really good use for Blair. Yeah, as it currently stands, that's pretty much everything you need to know. And we will be doing builds, because I had a lot of fun when it came to using Blair in the beta, so I will definitely be looking to make some builds for him when the full game does drop next year. Massive thank you for making your way to the end of the video. Massive thank you to the Babylonian family, as always, for their continued support. It really does help the channel out. And that just leaves me to say, keep yourselves safe, keep yourselves well, and I'll see you all on our next video.